here. I want to talk about journalism a little bit. You're a local journalist. I don't necessarily classify myself as a journalist. I know there's some questions that I think you had on this topic. And I think there's actually a lot more common ground that we'll find, maybe some disagreement on the idea of journalism nowadays, fake news, real news. What does that mean? Everything like that. Okay. So journalism, how long have you been in your kind of independent journalism sphere?
I would say probably since 2018 is when I first started my blog, which at the time it's still called strangecornersofthought.com because I just have a couple different aspects of my life.
Yeah.
But I consider my journalistic side to be what I call Agitation Rising, which you can find on my Strange Corners of Thought blog. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook and on Twitter, Agitation Rising. And it's usually, a lot of it is just me at various marches and protests that I've been at, just recording. I've done interviews. Obviously, I've done pieces where I actually respond to people or I respond on certain issues. I've responded to some things that you've said a couple times, and I had to correct myself at a very, very grievous error I don't think I'll ever live down, but yeah. So
at least you didn't misgender me. So
not yet.
Not yet. Go for it. Every time you reference me, you have my full permission to call me a she. Okay. I don't care.
All right.
I don't care. I've identified it as a woman when it's convenient.
Reproductive rights.
There's health care, women's rights for health care. And hey, you're a man, so I don't think any man has any right.
I actually identify as a woman.
Okay, great. Wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, if you identified as a woman to me, I probably wouldn't believe you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I identify as a woman.
I don't believe you.
Well, that's perfectly fine. You're just a transphobe.
Well, no. I mean, you want to know why?
Why?
Because you don't appear to have any secondary female sex characteristics. You don't appear feminine in any way.
I don't have an Adam's apple. I don't have a profound Adam's apple. I've always been very self-conscious about
that's
it.
That's one male sex characteristic.
I've been very self-conscious about my entire life.
You don't appear to
had to basically tangentially bring it up like that.
Yeah, so you don't appear to be feminine in any way. You don't go by any feminine linguistics, and also I've heard the words that come out of your mouth. So that's why I would be skeptical if you just came up and said that to me. So, but that's how I base that on. I mean, if someone tells me that, I'm like, okay, maybe.
Now I get you. Okay, but journalism, we've had this conversation before, like privately, in terms of I don't consider myself a journalist, and you tell me I'm selling myself short.
I think you are selling yourself short. I mean, do you report on factual information?
Yes. Well, I do report on non-factual information. That's
like what?
Well, I report on when the president lies to people.
But it's factually true that he's lying.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And I agree with you. The presidents lie a lot. It's probably an essential quality of the job is to lie. Might be part of their essence.
The government lies to us more than it tells the truth. That's one of my staples. But no, I don't consider myself a journalist. I'm an opinion host. I'm not. I'm rarely. There's been times where I've had journalistic qualities. I mean, like when I have gone to I've gone to some protests and things. I've interviewed different politicians and such. And those might be more journalistic. But overall, my show is I take other articles or I take other news stories and
you report on them
and I give my opinion on them.
But you report on them and then give your opinion on them.
But I give my opinion on them.
So, I mean, do you think that's the difference is whether you actually whether you explicitly are showing your own bias or your own opinion on it? You think that's the difference between a journalist and allegedly what you do?
Well, and again, because I see like Washington Post and I see New York Times and so many of these mainstream media sources, and I'll tell people they do the same thing I do. It's not journalism. They're just giving their opinion. I do believe that there is a sense of near objective journalism still out there, but I don't. But it's far and few between.
Well, like who? Like, can you give an example?
My best example, I don't talk about it very much on my show or anything like that. But I have a sister who's a journalist.
Don't tell anybody.
For a major news network. And I don't believe the news network itself is in and of itself objective. But when I try to have conversations with her about things that are going on in the world, I'll try to get her opinion.
Even privately?
Even privately.
She's like hardcore on
She is hardcore. Like I will try to have conversations and I'll be like, what's your opinion? And she's like, well, this is what's going on this side. And this is what's going on this side. And I'm just mad because it's consuming my life because it's my job. And that's how she talks to me about it. And then I'll give my opinion on something and then she will push against it. And like, I know based on her upbringing that she likely more agrees with me, that she is not actually in belief of whatever she is arguing with me. She's doing it because that's like what she does professionally. And she knows that it gets on my nerves sometimes. So
you don't like,
so I know that there are a sense of objective journalists out there. or near objective journalists that are more quality of what journalism is supposed to be.
I mean,
so that's why I try to make a distinction. And again, I don't believe that it's the overwhelming majority of journalism. I don't believe that most people that claim to be journalists are genuinely journalists. I think most are in some way an opinion piece, opinion host, opinion writer, anything like that. But
I mean, so regarding your secret sister, I would say that the bias.
It's not a secret that I have a sister. I just don't talk about her job or anything because I don't want it to.
That's valid. You're valid in having that belief. I mean, and this might not even always be her choice, but the choice on I'm going to specifically focus on this. Like I'm going to specifically focus on the speaker's race. That's the choice that maybe, probably it's just her boss is telling her that she has to do that. But that is itself a certain type of perspective that's being presented.
Kind of, but also like her job her job at the network is to cover things that are coming out of Congress. And so they think, and that's the perspective that like these certain things from Congress are specifically more important than other issues. Like that's the perspective that exists. So like, NPR, which, whether they like to, but again, that's not the individual. Like I'm sure if she was able to, and she was able to make as much, have all the benefits and everything, just doing her own independent journalism, and there weren't the barriers to entry, she would do it heavily objectively. And
wait, heavily subjectively or objectively?
Objectively, herself. Like
okay, she would rather
if she was able to do it herself and have all the benefits that she has working with the major network, and she was able to do it independently, she would do it objectively. I firmly believe that. It is not her as a journalist that is providing the slant. It is the powers that be that employ her.
Yeah, but I mean, even what you just said, if like she was able to make her own decisions of what she wanted to cover, again, like I just think a lot of this journalism, which I mean, a lot of it's very good. I'm sure she's a great journalist at providing accurate information. I provide I believe I provide, as far as I know, I've made corrections if I've gotten facts on the ground wrong. But like I always provide accurate information. Now, oftentimes I'll make predictions that end up being wrong. And I feel that is something different than, and a lot of journalists will not make predictions. But like, for instance, I made a prediction there was going to be a horrible COVID outbreak at the McLean County Jail. I was wrong about that. There was not a horrible COVID outbreak in comparison to a lot of other jails. Now, the reason he did that is because he had people on like 23-hour-a-day solitary confinement, which is also something that I fundamentally disagree with. But I admitted that I got that prediction wrong, and I do make corrections. If I do get information wrong. I mean, do you think that you would ever, like, as an opinion, that you should make corrections if you get something wrong?
If I get something factually wrong, yes. Yeah. And that's why I always say correct me in the comments or something. And if I'm genuinely wrong, I will admit it in some form or fashion somewhere. So
did you report that Target was selling trans swimsuits to children?
I reported that they were selling swimsuits that were for children that were specifically for transgender individuals. Yes,
because that wasn't true. It was. No, like if you go look at it, it was only for adult sizes.
Then why was it in the kids section?
I don't. It might have been advertised together with other kids' clothes, but it was not for children. I mean, I've seen Target respond to this, and if you go look at it, it's only in adult sizes.
It's in the, and they also even if it was, you're talking about just the swimsuits, they had children's T-shirts that were pro-trans, pro-gay.
Right, but it's not the same thing. It
is the same thing. I mean, it's because the point wasn't the point wasn't the swimsuit in and of itself. It was the display. It was its location.
If it wasn't the swimsuit itself, then you wouldn't have focused so hard on the fact that it wasn't just the swimsuit that I was talking about. But that specific information is what I'm trying to tell you, is that specific information that they were explicitly selling children's swimsuit. And to be clear, I don't have a problem if you sell swimsuits to trans children. That personally doesn't bother me. But the actual fact is that they were not selling trans swimsuits to children. It was only in adult sizes. They were only selling it and kids don't fit into adult sizes.
I don't know that to be true or not. Okay. I'll take your word for it for the sake of this, but
I can send you my sources.
Okay.
So, but I mean, like, there's things like that. Like,
I'll put it in the description of that video to ensure that everybody is clear. And I apologize if I did get that small fact wrong. But again, that wasn't but that's also why I claim I'm an opinion host, because I will apologize if I get something wrong.
But it's not
like
super
factually wrong. But the overall message is not hindered by that small detail, because the overall message and purpose was not hindered by that small detail. Now, if I claim to be a journalist, it would be much more important to me.
I think that specific fact has a lot more influence on what people believe than just saying, oh, there were shirts with rainbow flags on it. I think that has a lot more influence on how people feel about a specific issue.
Rainbow flags. I also discussed the entire outlet that they had that was a partnership with somebody that had like it was a very, very like demonic depictions that said like trans on it and things as well. Like that were
trans what? Trans are okay?
I have to look it up.
Okay. I mean, we don't have to get too focused on that. I'm just trying to like go on this like one point. Like,
yeah.
But you are willing to make corrections.
It wasn't just rainbow flags. My point being was that
is
that there was other things that were advertised that I found morally reprehensible.
And if you're interviewing somebody that, you know, I mean, most of the people that you interview that I've seen, I haven't watched everything you've ever done. Most of the people that you interview are people that you typically end up agreeing with. I mean, do you think that you're going to go out of your way to ask them difficult questions?
So there actually has been times where I have where I've tried to push back on some of them on some things, or that I will ask questions that are attempting to represent a different point of view. One example was a city council candidate that I was interviewing here had made a claim about a candidate that I was not favorable towards, but I pushed back on him and I was like, because he made a claim that she had said something. And I was like, I don't necessarily believe that she had said that. I've talked to her. I don't necessarily agree with her on everything, but I don't believe that she said that. Can you show me where she said that? And he was unable to. And I voted for him. I'll be flat out. I voted for him. But I pushed back on.
He voted for a liar. I'm just kidding.
We all vote for liars.
We all vote for liars. That's true.
But there was that one. I when it came to Riley Gaines, I knew I was going to agree with her on almost everything that she'd said. But I asked a question of regarding the biological advantages of Leah Thomas, and I asked, well, some people claim, Leah Thomas had come in fifth, and you also came in fifth. If there is such a biological advantage, why did he come in fifth? Unfair. But one thing I do want to ask, because you mentioned the biological advantage earlier, there are some out there that I've seen that say, well, Leah Thomas came in fifth. She came in fifth. So how could she have a biological advantage? She didn't even win. What would you have to say to people that say things like that? If there is such a biological advantage, why did he come in fifth?
She came in 8th, 5th, and 1st in different races. Yeah.
First in others, multiple firsts.
She had one first at that specific race. It was 9 seconds behind the world record.
There had been ones before.
I'm sure there had been other races, but the main thing was just 90.
Riley brought up a lot more of her record.
Yeah.
And so that's my point. I do try to ask questions, even if from another perspective.
And she gave her feelings that it's clear to me based on my feelings that they throw.
But I can wholeheartedly say that Thomas didn't try. This was all part of a bigger picture. Thomas dives in and literally looks like he doesn't know how to swim. Places 8th. This was sending a message that trans women can compete with women and win, but not always dominate.
So do you think? So are you kind of saying that maybe, and obviously it's not confirmed, that Leah kind of threw the race a little bit and waited?
Absolutely. Yeah, we were.
No, the evidence was that she came in 8th, 5th, and 1st. That she did. She did really good in one race. She tied with Riley. Riley got the exact same score as she did, and then 4 other cis women blew them both out of the water, and then she came in 8th in another one, which means 7 other cis women blew her out of the water. So I mean, that's the actual empirical evidence. Riley had a feeling that, she must have been throwing the race because that's as if Leah Thomas winning that one race didn't get her like tons of hate, as if it would have been that much bigger had she won another race. I mean, that's one of those things. I mean, I remember watching that interview and I was like,
but my point of what I'm saying, it wasn't the answer Riley gave. It was you posed the question of, don't you think that, yes, I will have a bias when I'm talking to a lot of these people.
Yeah.
I try my best to ask tougher questions and to remove my bias a bit at times, because I want to get that person's full understanding of whatever situation it is that I'm talking about with them. But that's another reason why I'm not necessarily a journalist. While I want to find different answers and poke holes in arguments to get to answers, I will be forthright when I agree with them. I will not. I'm not going to hide who I am.
What do you think about, because you had a situation, what was it, last year, or it was earlier this year
was,
at the
locally.
ISU where you were a student at?
Yep.
Where you're a student at. You want to go over that?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you've been following my channel, it's like my second live stream I ever did on my channel. I talked about how I was escorted out of a public event by the police. It was technically hosted by our local NPR station.
WGLT.
Yeah, WGLT.
State-sponsored media.
I always tell people that it's basically just NPR, because it is NPR.
Yeah.
It's
state-sponsored
because everybody
media.
Understands that then. But so state-sponsored media. And so it's public. The event was on a public campus, of which I also am a student at.
Yeah.
And I went to try to
involving public people running for public elections.
Office.
Yeah.
And I went and I tried to ask John Danenberger. I don't always like to name names with people, but he's one I will always name names with. John Danenberger. I went to try to ask him about a time where he verifiably lied to both the military as well as a German court, and that saying to both of them that he was going to be at each one, abandon his post at the military, that he a training that he was supposed to be at the military, abandoned his client at a German court, and instead was in Spain. And I wanted to ask him about it. I was like, why are you in Spain? Like, why are you hiding from talking about the situation? You've been called by federal judges that you are, I don't remember the exact words they use, but basically unprofessional. Why do you think you're fit to serve office when you've abandoned your posts on these occasions to take time off with your family? I understand taking time off with your family. I just wanted to talk to him about it. That instead, a union boss came up and stood in between me and him, and basically said that I was there to instigate, that I was a problem, and that I needed a press badge to be there. He's running for a city council position. You realize that, right? You talk about transparency. You talk about transparency, sir. You talk about transparency, but you don't want to be transparent with anybody. Is that how it is, John?
I think she just asked you what the full process.
So transparency is not important.
You're not a student reporter. You're with Cities 92.9.
I am a student here, and I'm also reporting. So I'm a student reporter.
You're trying to talk to him as part of City 92.9, correct?
I want to talk to him as a part of my YouTube channel, Speechless at Cab, and I'm a student, and I'm reporting on what's going on locally.
Do you have your media credentials for the event? Because he's going to talk to constituents and approve media.
There was nowhere ever that said I needed to have a press badge. I didn't really know that. I was asked by my boss to go ask this guy a question, and I was just going to try to ask the guy a question. And so there was that. Then the NPR manager came up to me, said I needed a press badge.
What was her name again?
Be that there. I don't even remember her name.
Okay.
NPR manager from WGLT. I feel like you're being pretty hostile right now. I just want to talk to him.
No, I'm staff.
Okay.
And this was the process.
Okay, I just want to ask him a few questions about his candidacy.
If you didn't RSVP and get media credentials by our people.
And she was like, if you do not leave right now, then she's going to have to get a cop. I said, go get the cop. I was trying to ask him a few questions. And then the police come. Okay. And the police come. The WGLT lady gets me escorted out by the police. The cop came up to me, and it was clear to me that I wasn't getting anywhere with this. And I was like, I guess I'll step out. I recorded at least feet of everything. I know that Illinois has weird rules when it comes to two-party recording, and so I was.
Well, you were in public, so it didn't matter.
I know. I should have.
Trust me. I know those rules very well.
I'll be honest. I was not prepared for. I was prepared to go in and ask a question. I wasn't prepared for a police escort. I had not, and now going through that, I would definitely change my behavior and what I had done. But
I mean, there are types of journalism, and I consider what you were trying to do there journalism.
I would consider
whether you self-identify as that or not.
I don't consider myself a journalist, but I do consider what I was doing in that instance journalistic.
Yeah. I mean, there are types of journalists that are explicitly antagonistic in certain ways, and you could call them gotcha or whatever. Do you think that was a possible attempt of what you were trying to do?
I was trying
to get gotcha.
Not really gotcha. I was just trying to talk to him about that situation in the instance. Now I would probably go much more at gotcha because of how I was treated.
Yeah.
But in the instance, I was handed a court document by my boss, and she said, here is the outline of the story. Here are the court documents that show it. Ask him about it. And ask him what had actually happened. Ask him his perspective. That's really what I was trying to do. That was in the moment that I was there.
And I was there when you got kicked out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I don't even know if we had met by that point yet.
No, we hadn't. But like I was there and I saw you getting kicked, and I was also there reporting as a journalist, and I had never even heard that I needed to get a press pass or whatever.
I looked into it after. I did not need a press pass.
And so
anything.
I was there. I mean, I was only there because I'd already interviewed one candidate. I can't whatever his name is who won Ward 6 for Bloomington, and I was trying to get his opponent Jordan Baker. I was trying to interview him, and I showed up there, didn't even get a chance to talk to him, but I was just kind of walking around. I mean, because I'm also involved in activism, I know a lot of these people, and I'd never met Dannenberger before, but he did come up to me, and I explained, "Oh yeah, I'm a journalist for Agitation Rising," and he wanted me to interview him.
Interesting.
And nobody came up to me.
It was also important to me too, because I'd watched because they had a point where they had like a public forum where Dannenberger was on the stage with other people. And he had made a point to say that one of the reasons he was running had to do with transparency. He used the word transparency. And so it meant a lot to me that he had said transparency. And then when I tried to ask him a question, getting him to be transparent about his history, that I was kicked out.
Yeah.
I don't care. Yes, he was supported much more by Democrats and people on the left than, but it's a nonpartisan race.
Yeah.
Nonpartisan.
And to be clear, I barely know this guy at all.
Yeah,
like I'm not for or against him. I couldn't care less.
But to me, it was never about that. It was like, it seems like you lied. And
I think it was
your history as a liar.
They might not have just noticed me, but I think it was hypocritical of them. I mean, this is something that I've come as a journalist more to be like, I think it was hypocritical of them to have kicked you out.
Oh, absolutely.
And if I would have made them drag me out personally.
Well, now
I'm also
again looking back, I was not prepared for any of that. I didn't know that. Like I had never been treated so poorly at an event. I've been to so many different events. I honestly think that was a worse situation for me than me at the DeSantis rally.
Like Ron DeSanctimonious.
Yeah, the DeSantis protest that I was at in Peoria. Like,
I enjoyed watching some of that.
It was a.
I almost was there, but I ended up not going at the last.
No, moment. It was more adversarial for me to be trying to talk to this politician who claims to want transparency.
And to be clear, he won his race.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he's currently sitting in office. He's currently sitting in office. I've talked to James O'Keefe about that situation a few times. Which was very interesting.
So, I mean, do you believe that if you go to an event and you request a press pass, if you're not a reporter, should you be given a press pass?
I don't. If it's a public event, you shouldn't need a press pass. Anybody is. That's what I talked about.
I also agree with that.
Because I've done so much. I did so much research on press passes and everything like that. And so that's why when I was at that event, the DeSantis one, and I had people that were like, "You need to have a press pass on you." I'm like, "No, I don't."
Yeah.
Because it was almost whenever I would say that,
and people
don't realize it, but that was whenever I would say that, it was like a direct callback to when I was told I needed one at the public event. That's like what was going through my head with.
And of everything that I saw, because again, you know, I used to live in Peoria. I was born and raised in Peoria. I knew most of the people that you ended up engaging with. That was the only thing that really bothered me, is when they asked for a press pass. Yeah. Because I've had the same thing happen to me. And to me, it's like, well, if they can do it to my side, and they're more likely to do it to like actual leftists, not just like these Biden fondling like liberals or whatever, but like actual leftists. They're more likely to do it to us than to conservatives. But I still think like that question in and of itself, and this is just some random lady that was on the street, right? She doesn't have any specific authority.
The Peoria Pride president, who was like one of the organizers, also asked me for a press pass.
Yeah.
So,
well, so like I don't like press pass. I can tell you my own experience, because like obviously the majority of my journalism and my activism, because I consider my journalism, my activism very closely related. I'm very clear that I wear my politics on my sleeve. Like I don't pretend that I don't, but I also only want to report factual information. And so at our courthouse, in the McLean County Courthouse, you cannot get in there with electronics. It's one of the few courthouses I've ever been to where you cannot bring electronics into the courthouse
as press,
unless you have a specific press pass. Most courthouses, you can bring electronics in regardless.
Really?
You don't have to be.
Every courthouse I have ever been to they say leave your phone in your car. You're not allowed to have it in
Then
there.
we've been to very different, like Peoria. You can bring an electronic
Like,
fair.
I'm talking like I've been.
Now there's
to
a difference between the courtroom and the full courthouse. And so in Peoria, it's you can't bring it into the courtroom, but the courthouse itself.
Got it. I've never been to a court where I haven't wanted or I haven't been there.
Yeah.
Going to a
and so, I wanted to get a.
Not that I'm like always on trial or anything, but I have gone on. I went to field trips to like the federal court in Chicago.
Yeah.
I had a speeding ticket one time, like things like that. So.
Yeah. And so, because I focus so heavily on policing, but also incarceration, the criminal justice, I mean, that's really like one of my main reporting areas. I wanted to get a press pass so I could actually get in the damn building with my electronics.
Yeah.
And I had to go through Ryan Denham of WGLT. He is the media liaison.
I've seen that guy
for the judicial district. And I've reached out to him twice and said, look, I'm a journalist. You know who I am.
Yeah.
You've seen my stuff. And I explained, hey, I'm doing this. These are things that I want to do. And he basically says, well, I don't consider you legitimate enough he'll like, bring a pen and paper, but we're worried that you might not get something accurate. And I'm like,
wouldn't I have a better chance of getting something accurate?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said to him. And so here you have a basically competition of journalists that's being able to block his own competition from being able to come in and report accurately. And the most recent time I did, I'm like, look, I have a disability. Like I need to be able to bring a recording device. Sometimes it's hard for me to keep track of my thoughts and stuff or be able to record things down. He's just like, I don't care. So, which is a violation of the American with Disabilities Act.
Yeah.
I mean, and so this is a problem. I mean, I know that there's been, what are they? The watchdog group, what are they called?
I don't remember exactly, but those are the same people. They FOIA'd for the police body cam footage of mine, and there was no body cam.
They actually had to sue and go over Ryan Denham's head,
really,
in order to actually get a press pass. And I know that here, one of the reporters here at Insurrection Radio is Kevin Woodard. He was given like a press pass to go in. Now, to be clear, Ryan Denham also wrote a whole article explaining why Cities 92.9 spreads misinformation, stuff like that. Now, as far as I know, everything in that article is correct, and we can disagree on that.
I don't think I was ever mentioned in it. So
you weren't, but which
always makes me mad.
But no,
WAPO did a story on us too, and I even did an interview for them. I was never once mentioned, and I was like, "Come on!" If I
did you record your interview?
No, I didn't.
I should always record your interview.
I should have.
But that's the thing. He writes a whole article saying that Insurrection Radio gets misinformation wrong all the time, which I don't disagree with him on. And then he gives one of their reporters a press pass to get into the courthouse, and then he has the audacity to come and say, "Well, we're worried that you might not."
That was definitely personal. That was definitely personal.
It might have been.
Because the thing is that of all of the people that I know that do reporting here, Kevin Woodard, I don't want to say Kevin Woodard is very
woody.
Yeah. Minus a time or two, has never been that instigatory.
I mean, the only rules that should matter, like I think Diane Benjamin, if anyone's not familiar with Diane Benjamin, look at bln.com.
blnnews.com.
Yeah, blnnews.com. I think as long as you can follow the rules, because there are rules that you have to follow. If you bring your press stuff, that should be the only question. You should be able to go to Ryan Denham and be able to get a press pass to go in the courtroom if you want to follow a trial. I mean, it's absolutely absurd that we're letting legacy media be able to determine who gets access to this or not. Yeah, I mean, even that. And this is not the only courthouse where they have basically an NPR affiliate as their liaison to do it. And so, I mean, and again, I could file a lawsuit, which the Edgar County Watchdogs, that's who I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's true.
They actually did. They went above his head to the judge and they got their press pass.
Yeah, those are the same people that tried to get the police body cam footage of mine, for which there was no police body cam.
Was he wearing a body cam?
I don't remember, honestly. And I don't think I got that much of him.
Because based on the Safety Act, he's supposed to be wearing a body cam.
When did the Safety Act go into effect again?
For him, it probably would have been, because it had different depending on the size of your department. They might have had to wait till 2024.
Yeah,
or 2020.
so it might not be.
But I would think ISU,
because this was like March, April.
Yeah, but I would think ISU would be ahead of the curve on a lot of these things. They got those social support animals. They can at least get some body cameras, which I don't have a problem with.
We got Sage.
I don't have a problem with social support animals. I love animals. So I mean, I think.
Do you believe?
I mean, let me ask you this: do you think that if there are situations, because there are situations where you need to go through a specific channel, and do you believe that you should be able to contact the McLean County Courthouse or the judicial district and say, I'd like a press pass, and that they should give it to you? Okay, well, I agree with why?
If you can,
because you're a reporter.
Well, no, not because I'm a reporter. I think because of the First Amendment.
Yeah.
Period. Because I have a
First Amendment protects reporters.
But there's also a difference between a reporter and a journalist.
Is there?
I believe, yeah.
Okay.
Because a reporter,
there's a lot of these very loose concepts here. These are all really messy, man.
Are you a reporter? And again, it wouldn't also just be reporting from you. It'd still be opinion, because I would go there, collect the evidence that I would need, and then I would come back and give my opinion on it. I'm an opinion host. I wouldn't necessarily be a reporter. I wouldn't necessarily be a journalist.
Are you saying words and concepts are context dependent?
Some.
I would say all of them.
No, not all words are context.
Well,
I mean,
kind
of, because
most linguists would disagree with you.
Now I'm thinking more now, because there's obviously intent behind words of what you're saying. So yes, they do change contextually, but don't try to do some leftist voodoo magic over there on me or something like. No, but
all right, so that was pretty much most of the debate that we talked about local journalism. There were some other things that I probably would have liked to have gotten into, but we did a pretty good job. Let us know. Is Kevin Phares a journalist? Should we just go by how he self-identifies, or should we just objectively show the truth that he's a journalist and he's reporting information, even if sometimes the information isn't always right? Should Ryan Denham of WGLT be discriminating against people that need special accommodations because of disability? Should he be ableist? Should Kevin and I be able to get, press passes in order to go into the McLean County Courthouse in order to do our jobs or not? Are we really journalists? Are we really reporters? We're completely independent. We're not attached to any legacy media. Again, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for turning into Agitation Rising, your source for local, leftist, independent journalism in Central Illinois and beyond. You can always find our articles on our blog, link in the description. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Agitation Rising is under the Strange Corners of Thought umbrella, so feel free to contribute directly to our Patreon, or donate via PayPal or Cash App. Again, links in the description. Keep agitating, keep rising, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks.